Okay, welcome to another broadcast of the Emergency Broadcast System from the Forbidden History series. Uh, we're just going to do our sound check before we get into the program, and I just want to say g'day to Yo and Yojani and Linjani, um, and anybody else that I can't see the chat at the moment, but I know you guys are there. So g'day, love you guys. And can we please uh, get a sound check from the chat? Desert, g'day. Let's test you as well. Yeah.
Test, test, test. Test coming to you from the Emergency Broadcast System, coming to you from Central Ohio, in Millersburg. Radio check. Radio check. I'm a 10, and so we're balanced. I hope that we're balanced. Okay, and you got to talk when I talk, Ninja, so we know that we're
Okay.
balanced.
Okay, talking.
Okay. Talking.
Talking.
Talking. It's Happy Pull. Happy Pull.
10, 10.
What planet are you on?
Okay.
What planet? Okay, so Lynn says we're at 10:10, so that's good. She's made you out to be a fox, though. Are you fox? I thought you were a
No,
cat.
that's a cat. Looks like a cat on my screen.
Oh, that's a cat. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's red. Foxes are red.
Yeah.
I'm a little louder. Okay. I just adjusted my microphone a little bit, so hopefully that worked. We're good on the meter. We look good on the meter.
Yeah, we look even on the
Okay.
meter.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to mute out, then Ninja, and you can start doing your damage
Okay.
to the world. To this. Look at that cat. There's a cat right there. Okay.
I'm sorry. Let's get on with it. Okay.
Right. Yeah, before the world burns down, they're working on it real hard.
Yeah, they're working on it. Um, okay, please stand by for the emergency broadcast system coming right up. Okay. Okay, welcome to the Forbidden History series. You're here with NinjaCat 111. You're here with NinjaCat and Desert-Owl, also from the Forbidden History series YouTube channel. and Forbidden History Archive. If you're not subscribed, please do. All links are in the description under all these live streams. And thank you for joining. I'd like to welcome any new listeners. If you are new, there's a mountain of live streams. We have 4 channels. All the links are in the descriptions. Please go back and check them out. There's PDFs available, and it's amazing once you see and hear pure truth on these channels. Anyway, we'll get into the introduction. The signs of the times. In essence, Desert discusses the history of the world and how the unseen hand has been running it from the very beginning of time. Who they are and how they have founded all of the first great civilizations that are found all around the world, about who the giants really were, and the ancient Aryan caste and slave systems, the priesthoods, the anti-gravity V-manners, the Earth-based misnomered UFOs which are man-made, the control of all forms of communications, commerce, religion, mass media, pseudo-politics, etc. It is the grand deception that is used to control all of mankind, and all instituted through the 3 main religions of the world in particular, used as their grand cover. Their cyber code has been revealed to him because he has become adept within the study of the ancient alphabets, communications, symbolism, religion, custom, law, cosmology and mythology, not to mention the fallacy of today's political science and pseudoscience in particular. Desert can also define the true nature of their warfare, their shell game of bringing one civilization up for their temporary use and then taking it down for the next 500-year generational cycle, as symbolized by the classical phoenix. Desert discusses the ultimate in mind control, an ancient art, and the financial control, the secret societies and their blood occult rituals, and how they wage all wars throughout all time, through the nations that they have created, which are all imaginations, plantations, and mere corporations. They have taken blood oaths to surrender their self-will and mind to their blind goddess, who has demanded our blood from the very beginning of time. They communicate to their minions through the movies, TV, and print media, while he can see, read, and interpret most all of it. It all says that they are using us for our ingenuity, for our collective constructive labour, for experimentation, and in the end, they intend to kill us all. They have given us full notice of what they are doing, and what they fully intend to do, while all of the general population, the sheeple, they merely go there to be entertained. The New World Order is the Old World Order from the beginning of time. There is a major cosmic natural disaster that is about to happen on Earth, and they know it, but they are cleverly leaving us in the dark. Hence the reason that they have built hundreds of underground bases all around the world, while they are leaving all of the people to remain unprepared, uninformed, and above ground, so that when it comes, the mere 5% who will survive above ground will die from the weakness and disease. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I reprinted it, and it's a bit out of whack. I apologise. Here we go, where am I at? Will die from the weakness and disease that has been generated from all of the poisons that they have been feeding us, from the chemtrails to fluoride in the water, to tainted vaccines, to fake food, etc., etc. They have enslaved us all by the clever means of deception, because we, most all, are their cattle, chattel, property, and because they merely wanted to harness our labour, what they always needed, which is what backs most of the world's currency through the birth certificate. But they are all through with us now. It is written in stone, as it can be seen written in the Georgia Guidestones. To know the truth is to be empowered and to be prepared. We may not be able to stop what has been done and what is about to happen, but the innocent and decent people on planet Earth deserve to know. And that was written by Dezert-Owl, who I would like to welcome to the program. And hang on one second, I'll make sure your microphone is on. G'day, Desert. How's it going?
Hi, Ninja. It's the world is still turning, in spite of what other people say. Okay, so we're here one more time. Postscript.
Sorry.
Yeah, there used to be a program called "As the World Turns," but of course, other people would think it should have said "As the World Remains Flat." So we'll have to go listen to some of the back programming because we addressed those issues already. And but anyway, our world is burning down, and we're in grave trouble. And yet they got people arguing over, whether the Earth is flat or round,
Yeah.
and it's it's not hard to see, when they connect with the one who made all things, because the one who made all things is the one who reveals all things. And but you can tell by the way people talk, even they make certain claims, but they have no real connection, with the one, because they've not gotten rid of self yet. You have to get rid of self in order to get self out of the way before you can see the oneness of this of this very interesting matrix, that we're in. We're in a double overlay matrix. We got the natural creation, which is a matrix. Then we have the man-made construct, which is also a matrix as well. So we have two matrices that we have to get through to see that which is unseen, that which is hiding right in front of us in the algorithm of the symbolism of the metaphors of this cosmic reality. The cosmology, what is being expressed as how the true intent of nature, and how the cosmic came to be in the order that it has evolved. Because evolution, Eva, there's the word Eve, you see, but correctly it'd be Keva. But evolution is a process. Okay, it wasn't like the great one just clicked his fingers. This creation has been going on for billions of years, actually, and for the Earth, it's been perhaps 3.5 to 4 billion years since it came out of the sun. Since the atomic creation came out of the sun, everything comes out of the light, and but people don't get that. They think it was just like a magic. He's just snapped his fingers, but he went through a process. Nature is the product of a process that took many millions and billions of years to come to be what we see. If people can't see the ancient nature of this earth, of the moon, of the cosmic system, then they're just not really, they're not deep thinkers, and I don't know what to say. They have to close their eyes real tight. It's like I got this friend. I got a cough. Just hold on a minute. I've got a friend who worked on submarine missiles, and really technically smart. He can do all that technical stuff, tear your car apart and rebuild a computer system.
Wow.
And at the same time, he thinks that there is no geoengineering. There is nothing going on. Man can't control the weather. That's his claim. And at the same time, follows the King James dogma every Sunday for 45 minutes, getting his fix to convince himself that he's an enlightened creature going to live forever. But kid doesn't even know that all the words that he uses are their words and not the words that were given to us by Yahweh.
Yeah, I've
And
noticed
so,
that there's a difference between I don't know how to say it now. Intelligence, like intelligent people, normally they're the ones that are completely blind to the reality of this world. Yeah.
right, because, and as the scripture says, that not many great, not many in high estate are called unto the royal domain, because he reaches the lowly, the outcasts, the down and out. They're the ones who have a better appreciation for what this world is really all about. Anybody that's got everything handed to them on a silver platter, they got the consolation prize, as is one of the ancient axioms. They got the consolation prize because they're not going to transcend. They think this is it. This is what they've waited for. This planet, this little silver platter that's been handed to them. Everything's okay. They got the best brand new car. They got the money in the bank. They got big home. And they don't realize that it's not about material wealth, because you can't take it with you, right? So what do we take with us? The only thing we can take is the true knowledge of who we are, where we are, when we are, and why we are. And so that's what we've got to go for. With it's the knowledge. That's what we want. We want the truth from the tree's root. Okay, and so we're not gonna get that from getting educated, because ed is remove. Ed means remove. So you don't want an education. You want enlightenment. And so I've got a sample read today from the Kolbrin. I've got another version of the Exodus from another writer. There's It's a bigger story than we get in our little abbreviated version we call Genesis. It was a big story, but what we have in Genesis is basically a capsule. It's a small picture of a bigger picture, and we have a bigger picture in the Kolbrin, Ninja. And I don't think you have a copy of the Kolbrin, do you?
I have access to it, but it's hard to, because there's so much there. It's hard to read on the computer screen.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you got a
Yeah,
PDF, but
I've got a
so
PDF, but if I put it on while you're reading, it'll slow everything down. So I'll just listen.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. So, but what's going on? Are you there?
Yeah.
I get all this. Oh, geez, you're just your audio went off the charts. Let me see what's going
Really?
on here. Yeah, let me pull this back down. For
Yeah.
some
I can
reason,
hear me. I can hear me in the
a
background. Yeah.
glitch happened. Is it all right now? Is it better? Is it
I
better?
just, yeah, I can't
Uh,
hear me anymore.
you can't. What do you mean? All right, so it worked, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I just hit my mic with the Colburn book, and it triggered something on my computer. I don't know how that happened, but we got it fixed, I think. All right. So, and let me try to clear my throat again. This getting old is, they say getting old is not for sissies. I think they're right. You got to be pretty determined to hang in there. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, let's see if we can do this. So the Exodus. Okay, this is uh, such a big book. It's just amazing. It's got elements of when the ancient Israel left the eastern world, and they came into the west of America and settled over here. There's so much in here, and now here's a slice of this is out of the Book of Manuscripts, and let's get a pretty picture on if we've got one, Ninja, for to read. Just to so we can just get lost in this. You got the cosmic fire. You got the ocean, an ocean picture or something like that, because that really this thing is flashing for some reason, and
Okay,
it's
I'm
just
looking. Yeah, I thought I
yeah,
fixed that glitch. It was okay. I recorded a few videos and it was okay, and it's come back. So I don't know
yeah.
what else to do. Um, I'm just looking for something nice.
Okay.
Um,
And this particular segment is called the Dark Days. The Dark Days. Okay, so I'll start reading. And the Dark Days began with yeah, but that's not a nice picture of nature, Ninja. Let's get something, placid. All those pictures, those beautiful pictures, all that music I sent you. Get
okay,
one of
I'm
those
still looking.
pictures. All right. The Dark Days began with the last visitation of the destroyer, and they were foretold by strange omens in the skies. All men were silent and went about with pale faces. Sounds it's rather reflective of today, actually, because people know there's something wrong, but they can't put their finger on it. While less than 1% of us, probably a thousandth of a percent, we actually know exactly what's going on. The leaders of the slaves, which had built the city to the illumination of Thumb, stirred up unrest, and Noachon raised his arm against them. They foretold of great events of which the people were ignorant, and of which the temple seers were not informed. These were days of ominous calm, with the people when the people waited, for they knew not what. The presence of the unseen doom was felt, and the hearts of Ashan were stricken. Laughter was heard no more, and grief and wailing sounded throughout the land. Even the voice of children, which correctly would be the royal eyes. That's a nice picture, Ninja. Thank you. The royal eyes of creation. That's children. The Ashaf would be the correct word. That is what the word for sheep, right? The little ones are like sheep. The
Yeah.
Ashaf,
Yeah.
and that means the royal eyes of creation. That's what they are, our little ones. And so even the voices of the little ones were silent, were stilled, and they did not play together, but stood silent. And by the way, if Shelley can put in the link to the Kolbrin for the folks in New Zealand, the copy that was put out by Marshall Masters on Amazon is a pirated edition, and we want people to get their Kolbrin from the people who actually translated it. That would be a very decent thing to do. And so we want to promote the legitimate version here, not one that was scanned and then was stolen, which is the one that was by the Masters people, but actually to get it from New Zealand is the appropriate thing to do. So if Shelley can pull that up, we figured, we've finally got their websites to a friend, and want people to know where they can get a copy of the Kolbrin plus the Kayla Day. The Kayla Day is another gospel of Yeshua, and we want people to know about that as well. A whole nother book of stories of Yeshua. No doubt this was all the property at one time of Joseph of Arimathea, his great uncle, and all of this is our legacy that has been stolen from us and lost. And so we're passing the word out. Okay, go check it out. I never had a friend tell me, hey, you need to read this Kolbrin. Had a friend had the Kolbrin for a year or so, never told me about it. Knew I was in the lost writings and everything,
Wow.
and I got to always dig for myself.
Yeah.
Yeshua puts me at the right place at the right time to find it, and I ultimately do. But I heard about it for 4 years, and nobody told me what it was about. 4 or 5 years, and then I've waited now, to get this other book, the Kayla Day, and I'm hoping to get it, by next year. So the slaves became bold and insolent, and women were in the possession of any man. Fear walked the land, and women became barren with terror. They could not conceive, and those with the youth, with the royal eyes of creation, aborted. And all Ashan closed up within themselves. The days of stillness were followed by a time when the noise of trumpeting and shrilling was heard in the sky. That's interesting, right? We have people hearing things in the sky. We've heard them like horns and
Yeah.
other sounds, right? And here we hear the noise of trumpeting and shrilling was heard in the sky.
Yeah. People always refer to that as prophecy, as in the future, like the prophecy happening now, and it's just another story it's another story on repeat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They don't know the
Yeah.
meaning of the word prophecy, number one, which is interesting. But yeah, it's just, I don't think it's nature that's doing it. I think it's man here
Yes.
in our
Or
modern time because he's
yeah.
got the technology. So
Yeah.
so they're just playing a little, rendition of what happened in the past.
Yeah.
Knowing these ancient traditions. Then the people became as frightened beasts without a herdsman, as asses when lions prowl without their fold. The people spoke of the Zulafhaim of the slaves. It says God, the God of the slaves. So we don't know what that original word was, but typically God is Elohim, but correctly that would be Zulafhaim. And reckless Ashan said, reckless men said, if we knew where this God were to be found, we would sacrifice to him. But the God of the slaves was not among them. Okay, so here it's talking about the God of the slaves, and it's referring because we know where the setting is now. It's in Meitzar, falsely called Egypt. And so the slaves, when it refers to slaves here, It's referring to Asia Reuls, Israel, falsely called Israel. Asia Rezul, Asia Reulva, actually Asia Reulva. And so he was not found within the swampland or in the brick pit. So the swampland would have been Goshen. Swampland is not the correct word. It is the where all the rivers split up. Estuary, and estuary might be the term to use for that area where the water flowed in all the different directions into the Mediterranean. His manifestation was in the sky for all Ashan to see. Well, there you go. His manifestation is the sun. But they did not see with comprehension. They could not see with comprehension, nor would any God listen, for all were dumb because of the hypocrisy of men. The dead were no longer scared. Oh, excuse me. The dead were no longer sacred and were thrown into the waters. Those already entombed were neglected, and many became exposed. They lay unprotected against the hands of thieves. He who once toiled long in the sun, bearing the yoke himself, now possessed oxen. Why? Because there was a switch out going on, right? Because people were abandoning their estates. They were in fear. They were going to other places. They were going into hiding. And so people were capitalizing on the chaos, is basically what it means. He who, excuse me, let me cough again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this today.
Oh.
He who grew no grain now owned a storehouse full of it. He who once dwelt at ease among his offspring now thirsted for water. He who once sat in the sun with crumbs and dregs was now bloated with food. Excuse me. He reclined in the shade, and his bowels overflowing. Cattle were left unattended to roam into strange pastures, and men ignored their marks and slew the beasts of their neighbors. No man owned anything. The public records were cast forth and destroyed. And no man who were slaves and who were masters. The people cried out to the Pharaoh in their distress, but he stopped his ears and acted like a deaf man. There were those who spoke falsely before Pharaoh and made the gods hostile towards the land. Therefore the people cried out for their blood to appease it. But it was not these strange Amun priests who put strife in the land instead of peace. For one was even of the household of Pharaoh and walked among the people unhampered. Dust and smoke, clouds darkened the sky and colored the waters upon which they fell with a bloody hue. Plague was throughout the land. The river was bloody and blood was everywhere. And of course, when that may be literal, we know the river was turned into blood by oxidized iron through an earthquake. But, nonetheless, this is probably a literal statement. The water was vile and men's stomachs shrank from drinking. Those who did drink from the river vomited it up, for it was polluted. The dust tore wounds in the skin of men and beasts. They may have been the boils. In the glow of the destroyer, the earth was filled with redness. Of course, they called theirs the Destroyer, and and today we call it Nemesis, which is the twin star. So here's talking about something seen in the sky, not even making mentioning of the the greatest volcanic eruption in recorded history, which was the island of Santorini on the other side of the Mediterranean, directly above Mezar,
Oh,
falsely called Egypt.
okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's a lot of the phenomena that occurred was caused by the volcanic eruption.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Wow.
but but the volcanic activity, like we see it today, was probably caused by the nemesis,
Yeah.
the destroyer. You
Yeah.
see, as we know, all the planets are heating up in our solar system right now, and it's because of the some invisible force. That's the reason the sun is blazing so bright right now. And so it's no doubt the cosmic activity. Okay, so continuing, in the glow of the destroyer, the earth was filled with redness. Vermin bred and filled the air and the face of the earth with loathsomeness. Wild beasts afflicted with torments under the lashing sand and ashes came out of their lairs in the wastelands and cave places and stalked the abodes of men. All the tame beasts whimpered, and the land was filled with cries of sheep, the ashaf, and moans of cattle. Trees throughout the land were destroyed, and no herb or fruit was to be found. The face of the land was battered and devastated by a hail of stones which smashed down all that stood in the path of the torrent. They swept down in hot showers, and strange flowing fire ran along the ground in their wake. The fish of the river dried in the polluted waters. Worms, insects, and reptiles sprang up from the earth in huge numbers. Great gusts of wind brought swarms of locusts which covered the sky. As the destroyer flung itself through the cosmic sky, it blew great gusts of cinders across the face of the land. The gloom of a long night spread a dark mantle of blackness, which extinguished every ray of light. None knew when it was day and when it was night, for sun cast no shadow. The darkness was not the clean blackness of night, but a thick darkness in which the breath of men was stopped in their throats. Men gasped in a hot cloud of vapor which enveloped all the land and snuffed out all lamps and fires. Men were benumbed and lay moaning in their beds. None spoke to another or took food, for they were overwhelmed with despair. Ships were sucked away from their moorings and destroyed in great whirlpools. It was a time of undoing. The earth turned over as clay sprung upon a potter's wheel. The whole land was filled with uproar from the thunder of the destroyer overhead and the cry of the people. There, as the sound of moaning and lamentation on every side, the earth spewed up its dead. Corpses were cast up out of their resting places, and the embalmed were revealed in the sight of all men. Pregnant women miscarried, and the seed of men was stopped. The craftsman left his task undone, the potter abandoned his wheel, and the carpenter his tools, and they departed to dwell in the marshes. All crafts were neglected, and the slaves lured the craftsmen away. Ninja, I've got to do one thing. Just give me 1 minute. Just say something, and I'll be right back. Okay, gotta do something.
Okay. Get your PDFs. uh, all the information is in the description under all the live streams. We have the hang on, I need my piece of paper. We have the Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary written by Dezert-Owl. We also have a copy of the Book of Wisdom and also a sample of the original Gospel with a more up-to-date version of the dictionary at the back of it. All three are amazing. There's information in the description. My email, or you can email. I think there's another one for Forbidden History Archive as well. You'll be amazed. It will help you see and read for yourself. These are crucial times, and we really need to learn this truth that Desert is revealing. So yeah, please get your PDFs. How's it going, Desert? I just
Okay,
got a
Ninja,
circle.
your Skype is breaking up for some reason.
Yeah, I'm buffering suddenly. Um, uh, okay. Can anyone?
Ninja, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, you're buffering real bad right now.
Yeah, it's
Okay, I think
got a red
you
line.
can hear me okay? Can you hear me
I can
okay?
hear you. Yeah,
Can you hear me okay?
yeah, I can hear you.
All right, we're having audio problems. You can hear me?
I can hear you. Hang on, I'm
All
just.
right, all right. Yeah, you're sounding a little better now. Okay, so continuing on, verse 18.
Okay, it should come good in a second. The OBS just refreshed itself.
What?
Okay, okay. Yeah, we'll keep going. Yep.
Yeah, our Skype audio has never been this bad before. You're breaking up really bad on Skype, but let's continue. Let's see if we can do this. All right,
Okay.
you're hearing me?
Yep.
Okay. For anyone coming in late, we're doing a readout of the Kolbrin, and we're reading a segment, another account of the Great Exodus. Okay, so here we go. The dues of Pharaoh could not be collected, for and that means taxation, obviously. For there was neither wheat nor barley, goose nor fish. The rights of Pharaoh could not be enforced, for the fields of grain and the pastures were destroyed. The highborn and lowly created light together, that life might come to an end, and the turmoil and thundering ceased to beat upon their ears. Terror was the companion of men by day, and horror their companion by night. Men lost their senses and became mad and were distracted by frightfulness. On the great night of the destroyer's wrath, when its terror was in its height, there was a hail of rocks, and the earth heaved as pain rent her bowels. Gates, columns, and walls were consumed by fire, and the statues of gods were overthrown and broken. And we've seen a lot of this evidence. Brian Forrester of Ancient Inca Tours goes to Meitzar quite a bit, and he showed us a lot of this damage that we just read right here. People fled outside their dwellings in fear and were slain by the hail. Those who took shelter from the hail were swallowed up when the earth split open. The habitations of men collapsed upon those inside, and there was panic on every hand. But the slaves who lived in huts and in the reedlands at the place of the pits, it says here, but the place of the this is the land of Goshen it's referring to, because that's where they made their brick. because of the mud, right? The mud, that's what I was talking about, the mud pits. They were spared. The slaves were spared. Wonder why, ladies and gentlemen? Because these were the slaves of Eshareul, and of the seed of Zavramhaim, Abraham. The land burnt like tinder. A man watched upon his rooftop, and the sky hurled wrath upon him, and he died. That's the explosion of Santorini, the greatest explosion in recorded history. They said it was heard 5 times around the world, one explosion of the volcano, echoed 5 times around the world. The land writhed under the wrath of the destroyer and groaned with an agony of a Meitzar, Egypt. It shook itself, and the temples and the palaces of the nobles were thrown down from their foundations. The highborn ones perished in the middle of the ruins, and all the strength of the land was stricken. Let me try to take this silver from my throat. Hang on a minute. I'm trying to do something.
Let me know if you need a break.
Well, yeah, I need one. I needed one when I started, Ninja.
Oh.
Well, I don't know what. Yeah, I'm just one of those things today, and I'm forcing my. We're going to at least get this read done.
Okay.
We may cut it short, but we'll at least get this read done here. Even the great one, the firstborn of Pharaoh, died. Okay, we heard that story, right? The firstborn of Pharaoh died with the highborn in the middle of the terror and falling stones. That's the debris from a volcanic eruption. If it's not, other, elements falling from space. I think it all happened. I think that's what was happening. The raw eyes of creation, the children of princes, were cast out into the streets, and those who were not cast out died within their abode. There were 9 days of darkness and upheaval, while a tempest raged, such as never had been known before. When it passed away, brother buried brother throughout the land. Men rose up against those in authority and fled from the cities to dwell in tents in the outland. Meitzar, falsely called Egypt, lacked great men to deal with the times, and people were weak from fear and bestowed gold, silver, and lapis lazuli, turquoise, and copper upon the slaves. Well, we heard that, right? Now we know it wasn't just the gold or the silver, but it was also the lapis lazuli, turquoise, and copper upon the slaves. They were giving them gifts because they knew that they were of a pure seed and were being oppressed by the Pharaoh, and therefore didn't want the tragedies to fall upon their heads. And so they gave them everything they had, because they couldn't eat the gold, they couldn't eat the silver, they couldn't eat the rare stones, and they wanted to live. So they gave them, the slaves, Eshareul, all of these things. And to their Amen Konun, priests, they gave chalices, urns, and ornaments. They were given the wealth of Meitzar over to Eshareul. Pharaoh alone remained calm and strong in the middle of this confusion. The people turned to wickedness in their weakness and despair. Harlots walked through the streets unashamed. Women paraded their limbs and flaunted their womanly charms. Highborn women were in rags, and the virtuous were mocked. And then this is now the part where we're going to hear about Moishan, Moses. The slaves were spared by the destroyer and left the accursed land immediately. Their multitude moved in the gloom of the half-dawn, under a mantle of fine swirling gray ash. leaving the burnt fields and shattered cities behind them. Many mate-honoring Egyptians attached themselves to this assembly, to the host. And one who was great, led them out, a priest prince of the inner courtyard, and that would have been Moses, because he was raised by Pharaoh's daughter. He was of the inner court, and that's what it says right here. A priest of the and prince of the inner court. You read, what is it, Herodotus? I'm getting confused with all the different writings now, but it was, no, I think it's Josephus. In Josephus, we find out that he was a general. He conquered, who went out and marched on other nations with the armies of Pharaoh and conquered them. That's who we're talking about. A priest and a prince of the inner court, Moses, Moishan. He's got the cosmic name, Moeshan, the mother's royal eye. That's what he became, right? A mother to his people, the mother's royal eye. Fire mounted up on high, and its burning left with the enemies of Meitzar, Egypt. It rose up from the ground as a fountain and hung as a curtain in the sky. In 7 days, by Remwar, the accursed ones journeyed to the waters. So it took them 7 days. They crossed the heaving wilderness while the hills melted around them. Above, the skies were torn by lightning. They were sped with terror, but their feet became entangled in the land, and the wilderness shut them in, and they knew not the way, for no sign was constant before them. They turned before Noshere. And Noshere sounds like the knowledge of Eshareha, or the knowledge of the royal eye. They turned before the knowledge of the royal eye and stopped at Sukkoth, the place of the quarries. They passed the waters of Maha and came to the valley of Pikaroth, northward of Mara. They came up against the waters which blocked their way. And their hearts were in despair. The night was a night of fear and dread, for there was a high moaning above and black winds from the underworld were loosed. And fire sprang up from the ground. That would have been molten lava, most likely. The hearts of the slaves shrank within them, for they knew the wrath of Pharaoh followed them, and that there was no way of escape. If you read Herodotus, you find out they were between two mountains in the mountain pass, and on the beach with water in front of them and nowhere to go. They hurled abuse on those who led them. Remember, they revolted. Moeshan, why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? They hurled abuse on those who led them out. Strange rites were performed along the shore that night. The slaves disputed among themselves, and there was violence. Now we get a bit of an inside view. I'm getting some background noise here, Ninja. Well, I wonder what that thing's doing that way for. Okay, I got it down.
Okay.
That's really strange.
It is strange. Right. I just want to say this is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Did you? All right. Well, good enough. So Pharaoh had gathered his army and followed the slaves. That's our Exodus story, right? After he departed, there were riots and disorder behind him, for the cities were plundered. The laws were cast out of the judgment halls and trampled under foot in the streets. The storehouses and granaries were burst open and robbed. Roads were flooded and none could pass along them. People lay dead on every side. The palace was split, and the princes and officials fled, so that none was left with authority to command. The lists of numbers were destroyed. And the list of numbers would have been like probably the accounting books of the city. Then the palace was split, and the princes and officials fled, so that none was left with authority to command. The list of numbers were destroyed. Public places were overthrown, and households became confused and unknown. Pharaoh pressed on in sorrow, for behind him all was a desolation and death. Before him were things he could not comprehend, and he was afraid. But he carried himself well and stood before his hosts with courage. He sought to bring back the slaves, for the people said in their magic that their magic was greater than the magic of Meitzar, falsely called Egypt. Hey, Jackie, good to have you on the broadcast. We're doing a read here from the Kolbrin, and it is the other account of Exodus, another eyewitness account of the Exodus, another written account by we don't know who, but either one of the tribes of Dezert-Owl or one of the Mitzrayim, one of the Egyptian people that fled out as well, because as we read here, even Egyptians followed the slaves. They wanted out of Meitzar because they knew it was a tyrannical world that they were living in. And so here we are. Okay, the host of Pharaoh came upon the slaves by the saltwater shores. That would have been the Sea of Aqaba. It's not what's called the Red Sea today. They changed the names and places, and it's the Sea of Aqaba, and it's the Sea of Souls. That's what Aqaba means, actually. The water of souls. The Aka is the aqua. The Ba means soul, and so it's the waters of the souls. But it was held back from. But this water was held back from them by a breath of fire. There's the whirlwind, right? So Dezert-Owl is surrounded by two mountains in the mountain pass, with the Sea of Aqaba in front of them on a beach, on a giant beachhead, and in between the pass, between them and the Pharaoh, is the wall of fire, and that's what it says right here. But they were held back. Pharaoh's army was held back from them by a breath of fire. A great cloud was spread over the army and darkened the sky. None could see except for the fiery glow and the unceasing lightnings which rent the covering cloud overhead. A whirlwind rose up from the east and swept over the encamped army of the slaves. A gale raged all night in the red twilight dawn, and there was a movement of the earth, an earthquake. The waters receded from the seashore and were rolled back upon themselves. There was a strange silence, and then in the gloom, it was seen that the waters had parted, leaving a passage between them, a bridge. The land had risen, but it was disturbed and trembled. The way was not straight nor clear. The waters were as if spun within a bowl, like a whirlpool. They were swirling. The swampland alone remained undisturbed. That swampland would have been, the bridge, because it was still wet, right? It said that in Josephus, the winds blew all night long, and then it dried. The wind was so fierce that it dried up the water and made it firm. And this swampland alone remained undisturbed. From the horn of the destroyer, from the sound of the destroyer, or from the power, that's what the horn means, power. So from the power of the destroyer came a high shrilling noise which stopped the ears of men. The slaves had been making sacrifices in despair. Their lamentations were loud. Now before the strange sight, there was hesitation and doubt. For the space of a breath, they stood still and silent. Then all was confusion and shouting, some pressing forward into the waters against all who sought to flee back from the unstable ground. Then in exaltation, their leader, Moishan, Moses, I'm adding the word because that's who the leader is, we know that. Their leader led them into the middle of the waters through all of this confusion. Yet many sought to turn back into the host of the army of Pharaoh behind them, while others fled along the empty shores, not knowing where they were going. All became still over the sea and upon the shore, but behind, the earth shook and the boulders split with great noise. The wrath of the sky was removed to a distance and stood upwards of the two armies, stood upwards between the two armies. Still, the army of Pharaoh held its rank, firm in resolve before the strange and awful events that were happening before them, and undaunted by the fury which raged by the seaside. Stern faces were lit darkly by the fiery curtain, the whirlwind. Then the fury departed, and there was silence. Stillness spread over the land while the army of Pharaoh stood without movement in the red glow. Then with a shout, the captains went forward, and the army rose up behind them. The curtain of fire had rolled up into a dark, billowing cloud which spread out as a canopy. There was a stirring of the waters, but they followed the evildoers past the place of the great whirlpool. And so it's referring to the, that's why I said this is an Egyptian account, because it appears that they're calling Israel, Esha now, the evildoers, right? When it was always Pharaoh who was the evildoer, right? The passage was confused in the middle of the waters, and the ground beneath unstable. So they got halfway across, chasing after Esha Israel. And then right in the middle, the ground became unstable. Here in the middle of a tumult of water, Pharaoh fought against his hindermost of the slaves. So they were attacking some of Esha and prevailed over them. And there was a great slaughter amid the sand, the swamp and the waters. The slaves cried out in despair, but their cries were unheeded. And so we see a little deeper into the story now, ladies and gentlemen, because we didn't get the full picture, and here it is. This literally should be, put in the back of our books, for a further account of what really happened. The story behind the story. Their possessions were scattered behind them as they fled, so that the way was easier for them than those who followed. Then the stillness was broken by a mighty roar, and through the rolling pillars of cloud, the wrath of the destroyer descended upon the army. The skies roared as with 1,000 thunders. The bowels of the earth were sundered, and the earth shrieked in its agony. The cliffs were torn away and cast down. The dry ground fell beneath the waters, and great waves broke in upon the shore, sweeping in rocks from seaward. So the waters came back. They came back. Whatever happened in that great cosmic event, the geological, because right there it's a what do you want to call it? It's a geological hot zone right there, with fault lines and all running through that Rift Valley of the Jordan River and the Nile River, All of that is a rift zone. The great surge of rock and waters overwhelmed the chariots of the Mitzrayim Egyptians who went before the footmen. The chariots of the Pharaoh was hurled up into the air as if by a mighty hand. It was crushed in the middle of the rolling waters. Tidings of the disaster came back to Ragev, son of Tloma, who hastened on ahead of the terrified survivors because of his burning. He brought reports unto the people that the army had been destroyed by blasts and floods. The captains had gone, the strong men had fallen, and none remained to command them. Therefore the people revolted because of the calamities which had befallen them. Cowards slunk from their lairs and came forth bloody to assume the high office of the dead. Comely and noble women, their protectors gone, were their prey. Of the slaves, the great number had perished before the army of Pharaoh. The broken land lay helpless, and invaders came out of the gloom like carrion. A strange people came up against Meitzar, falsely called the Egypt, and none stood to fight, for strength and courage were gone. The invaders, led by Al-Canaan, came up out of the land of the gods. That's either India or Ethiopia. Okay, the land of the gods. They're both are the land of the gods, so it could be either one. And Meitzar was being run, of course, by the unseen hand out of India, but the agency could have been in Ethiopia as well as a secondary pilot. Because the wrath of the sky, which had laid their land waste. Okay, so because the other nations saw what was happening, and so there too had been a plague of reptiles and ants, signs and omens, and an earthquake. There also had been turmoil and disaster, disorder and famine, and with the gray breath of the destroyer sweeping the ground and stopping the breath of men. And Torah gathered together the remnants of his fighting men and the fighting men who were left in Meitzar, Egypt, and set forth to meet the children of darkness who came out of the eastern mountains by way of the wilderness and by way of Yethnobis. They fell upon the stricken land from behind the great cloud, before the lifting of the darkness and before the coming of the purifying winds. Regav went with Pharaoh and met the invaders at Hirosher. But the hearts of the Mitzrayim Egyptians were faint within them. Their spirits were no longer strong, and they fell away before the battle was lost. Deserted by the gods above and below, their dwellings destroyed, their households scattered, not to mention there was no food. They were as men already half dead. Their hearts were still filled with terror and with the memory of the wrath which had struck them from out of the sky. They were still filled with the memory of the fearsome sight of the destroyer, and they knew not what they did. Pharaoh did not return to his city. He lost his heritage and was seized by a dark nature for many days. His women were polluted and his estates plundered. The children of darkness defiled the temples with rams and ravished women who were crazed and did not resist. They enslaved all who were left, the old, the young men and boys. They oppressed the people, and their delight was in mutilation and torture. Pharaoh abandoned his hopes and fled into the wilderness beyond the province of the lake, which is in the west toward the south. He lived a goodly life. That direction, by the way, would be probably up the Nile, halfway to Ethiopia, and there's a great lake up there, and I don't remember the name of it. He lived a goodly life among the sand wanderers and wrote books. And so he, like other people, he finished his life writing books. Okay, but he lost his nation, and so good times came again, even under the invaders, and ships sailed upstream, and the air was purified. The breath of the destroyer passed away, and the land became filled again with growing things. Life was renewed throughout the entire land. Caer taught these things to the seat of light in the days of darkness after the building of the Rambudith, before the death of Pharaoh Ankhed. This is written in this land and in our tongue by Luader, who himself chose it for saving. It was not seen until it was not discovered, it should say, till the last days. Okay, in the last days were 2,000 years ago, when the world ended, the old world ended, and Yeshua ushered in the golden age of light and truth and reason and the divine love. And so there you go, ladies and gentlemen, a bit of a history that has been kept from us, and yet it is hiding in front of us if we only know where to look. And so this is from the Book of Manuscripts out of the Kolbrin, and I think Shelley put the link in the chat for getting the Kolbrin from the good people out of New Zealand who
Yes,
deserve
yeah.
credit for it. Yeah, because this copy here in America was stolen by others, and and therefore the purchase should be made by the people who did all the work of translating it. Okay, that's out of New Zealand, and so thank you, Shelley, for putting that link into the description. Fox, good to see you on the broadcast, and everybody else, welcome to any new listeners that may be listening in as well. I'm Dezert-Owl, and I don't have any voice today. So, Ninja, back to you. We can take a break, and then we can just follow up if you want to ask any questions about this, or anything else you want to discuss real quick. But I think let's do a 7-minute break, and then we're just going to wrap it up. Okay? Anybody else out
Okay.
there with a question? Put your question with my name in all capital letters, and then use upper and lower case on your question. Okay, and we'll be glad to address that. We're doing a postscript today, and I'm not sure where we're going with our broadcast. Thank you, Jackie, certainly. But nothing is permanent in this world, ladies and gentlemen, and certainly YouTube is not, because we have no algorithm. We don't get promoted, and we're kept down with the thumb of what they do to people who tell too much. So we're looking for another venue to go to, which probably is going to be private, and then by invitation, or some other method is going to be used, because they're now coming for us. 2020 is here, and those who tell truth will are going to be rounded up. That's coming next, and they're going to do it in a very clever way. They're going to fine people of $40,000 a pop through COPPA, and then you won't be able to pay the bill. And guess what? You go to debtor's prison. That's how the game is played. So we have to be clever in knowing. That's not the right word. Wise is the right word in knowing what they're intending to do to truth tellers, ladies and gentlemen. So, but I'm good for interviews. I'm willing to do an interview anytime, anywhere. But we may not be producing our own anymore on YouTube, because it's not the right place to be. So it's no longer, they took the U out of the tube, if you know what I mean. So Ninja, back to you, and give me 7 minutes, and we'll pick it back up on the other side and close out. Okay.
Okay, thank you for getting through the read. That was amazing. I'll comment after the break. Um,
Thank you.
no worries. Okay, thank you all for joining. Please stand by, enjoy the music break, and we'll see you on the other side. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for joining us. Um, yeah. um, I apologise for cutting off the music there. Yeah, that was totally my fault. Um, okay, Desert. Um, we have a question in the chat. So,
Okay,
yeah.
good to be back. Good to be back. And I was just looking at your TV. What I don't know what you call that thing, but a temporary,
Yeah,
channel,
the
channel, channel.
old school test pattern
Yeah, yeah,
thingy.
yeah. Test pattern. Thank you. So on there it said Chronicles, Forbidden History Chronicles. I just want to give an example of original thought because there in the word chronicle, you could see Corona, and then so it's Corona Call. So in call we see collect, cultivate, culture, right? And also column, by the way. So it's a collection on top of each other,
And
right? In a
chronic.
column, and so Corona call. So you see, so it literally means what is a chronicle? Then it is a collection of the sun. It's a collection of the light, right?
Wow.
It goes right back to the light, chronicle. As Abraham when he left Ur of the Chaldees and went into it said Haran. It wasn't Haran. It was Quran. It was the Corona.
Wow.
It's metaphor of He went back to the sun, and when he goes back to the sun, then he comes out into the promised land, right? And so there's so much to the Asia Wars, and
Yes.
I'm gonna get hammering on the translation at the first of the year, and it's been a long process of ramping up to get back to word processing because I've lost most all of my work and my documents by the sabotage of the local Mason clique and then also just having computer issues alone. So it's been a real struggle, and there's always been very little support. I mean, like virtually none.
Yeah.
And so the little that comes in has always been so welcome, and I'm forever grateful for those who have supported. You've done a major work to give me a voice on the network here, Ninja. So I'm very grateful for all of your dedication and effort, and the we all are in the same dilemma, and so people working together collectively. There's the call again. The collective uh, can can make a difference. It's always people that come together that make something happen.
Yeah.
It's always people. It's about people. That's what this whole story is about. It's about the life of the higher order. The original word for children is the royal eyes of creation. Ashaph. Ashaph is sheep, and Ashaph, also implying children, literally means in the Ashaph, the royal eyes of creation. Isn't that what little ones are? They're royal eyes of creation. They're innocent. They're beautiful, right? The big eyes because they're little people,
Yeah.
but their
That's
eyes are already,
amazing. I love how you
yeah,
discovered that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a long process of discovering these things. And Jed, good to have you on the broadcast. And so Jackie wanted to ask about the 2020, and I was actually amazed to and thank you for the question, Jackie. But I was amazed that as we got nearer to 2020, what I had been saying for the last decade or longer, 15 years, since I did an interview with Glenn Keeley, because Glenn out of Canada, another one who got persecuted by the government, who worked for the government, said that because he reads the code just like I do, but he read different uh, code, like he could interpret the plays of Shakespeare, the code in Shakespeare. I do it from a spiritual standpoint. He was doing it from an exoteric standpoint. Have been at the right place at the right time to wake up, so, but he said that the reason when you go to the eye doctor, they say you have 20/20 vision, which is perfect vision. If you have perfect vision, it's 20/20 because they were letting their secret societies know from the beginning, as long as possible that don't forget when you get to 20/20, you will see things perfectly. And so in the like I just did a review of the movie Constantine again, which is filled with symbolism, and in there um, the drunk is the one of the Jesuits has become a drunk because he can't handle being a psychopathic phony, pretender to love his people while he wants to drink their blood, So he has got a drinking problem. And the cars outside, the cop cars that came in outside, all had 20 on their hoods. There was two sets of 20s, 2020, 2020. Okay? When you see things twice, it's a confirmation about something. In other words, that's worth looking at deeper, then I saw it just in a movie I just watched the other day. On the door, there was a 20, on the door, and I can't even remember what movie that was now. But
One of the Matrix movies, was it, or was it?
no, not one of the Matrix movies. It was something I had just watched.
I'm trying to think of the ones
Like,
you
in
told
other
me.
words, you
iRobot.
just now that you're tipped off to it, just look for it because you will see it.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
putting it in your face, and only the initiated, would be the ones who would be getting the tip off. But the 20 is everywhere,
yeah,
and just like the 9/11 code is everywhere because it's an ancient code. You'll see it more covertly in the Roman numeral, which is the IXXI. In the IXXI, the two X's in the middle create the Masonic compass and the square, the architect's compass and the creator's square. Okay, the architect and creator are the creator is female and the architect is the male, the Great Spirit. So these are all relative things to be associated, but the 2020 is prevalent now. When you watch the movies, look for it.
can I
What
add
was the
to that?
last?
um
Yeah, okay, but I think I'm remembering the movie. Hang on a second.
okay.
Um, oh no, it's escaping me. That's okay.
The $20
Well,
note, the picture of the $20 note that I sent you, the Australian
that's
$20
right.
note is
That's right. That's
orange.
right.
Orange is 33 Mason, and it's 20, a $20 note with 20 on, written on both sides, 2020. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I remember. I just
Okay.
watched the movie I Bought. I just watched the movie I Bought. Okay, and
Yeah, iRobot.
I Robot,
Yeah.
and on there, his the star who is what's the name of that star? He's a black guy. He's really cool. He was in anyway. His mother, and the mother is symbolic. She lived in apartment 20. She lived in apartment 20, and so then when you look at how the movie plays out, then you get the idea of what's going on. The door is 20 on the door, right? So yeah, it's just you have to associate things. You have to associate things. Make the connections with the theme of what's going on. But it's prevalent, okay? And in the movie Constantine, it's really interesting because the woman who was the detective, and then she goes. The first thing you see her, she goes to a confessional booth to confess to the priest, to the confessor, that she kills somebody. She's always at the right place at the right time to know how to kill somebody. Doesn't know how that happens. And but then her sister commits suicide. Her twin sister commits suicide at a mental hospital, and she jumps off the building. And there's the big cross going down the cross. The cross represents a timeline, going back in time. And then she falls through the waters, into the waters at the bottom, through the glass, through the looking glass, and then into the waters which represent truth, the waters of truth. But she says in the movie to Keanu Reeves, who plays the role of Constantine, she knows, and her sister's name is Isabel. She says, "I know Isabel wouldn't kill herself. I know she wouldn't commit suicide." And so Isabel is the ISIS woman, the woman of Asia in the original thought, but in the Maitreyin uh, dialogue, it would be the ISIS woman. And she says, "I know she wouldn't kill herself," but yet we see that way because the occultists, right, that are playing the game on everybody else, right? They're thinking, man, they're really destroying the world. They're really doing it. They're burning it up. They've destroyed the ozone layer. They're burning down paradise, right? The only
Oh,
world we know. They're
desert.
destroying it. But she says in there, I know she wouldn't kill herself. She would not kill herself, you see? And so that's what they want you to think if you're in the occult society. But I just saw something, was it yesterday? And they pointed, oh, in a, was it a movie, I think, in Superman, I think I watched it yesterday because I'm looking at all the symbolism. And right in there, um, oh, geez, now it's escaping me. Um, hold on, let me get my thoughts. That they wouldn't destroy the world, and then they admitted. In the movie Superman at the beginning, you got Marlon Brando who plays the father of Superman. They rounded up these supposed three criminals, right? And they wanted to conquer the world. And what they said was, they destroyed our world. These criminals have destroyed our world. What is your verdict? And they said guilty. And so they were going to kill the ones who plotted and organized. They said they organized to destroy our world. What should we do with them? And you see, they're telling you right in the movie that these wicked that have been willing to fly the jets and to commit mayhem behind the scenes on our planet are going to become the ultimate scapegoat because the Illuminati wants them not. They need them not. The unseen hand at the top, I mean.
Yeah.
At the top,
Yeah.
all the pawns and the puppets are the bricks in the pyramid.
Yeah.
They're not in the upper pyramid. Look at the back of the $1 bill. There are two pyramids.
Yeah.
And
They're
at the
being
top
used
of
and
the
they'll be
pyramid,
discarded. Yeah.
at
Sorry.
the top of the pyramid is the eye. That's the unseen hand. And the bottom pyramid are all the bricks from all the puppy dogs they used up and chewed and spit out when they were done with them. And so they're telling you right in the movie Superman, when they're done with these sellouts, they're going to take them down as well. So congratulations, Stoops and Poops and puppy dogs. Go lick the boots of your master because they're going to take you down along with everybody else because they did it already. It's a done deal. You can't bring back the earth. I just learned that they closed down the fishing facilities up in Alaska.
Yep.
The salmon are all gone. The cod are all gone. The whales, the starfish outside of Fort Bragg and Mendocino in the oceans, the Pacific Ocean, the starfish are gone. Nobody's asking the question. On the news, they said, look at all the sea urchins. Well, they used to be eaten by starfish, and they're just talking about sea urchins. Why didn't they say, well, what happened to all the starfish? When the stars are gone, you know you're in trouble.
Desert. Wow. There was
What?
two things, and I've forgotten one already.
Sorry about that. Your program, I should. Yeah.
I know. You get on a roll. Yeah. Anyway. um,
I guess we each need to get our own program now, Ninja.
oh
So,
yeah. I've been meaning to send you this about a week ago. I think it was. Maybe not even that. Um, some sort of event. Uh, there was a word in the title of this event. Paradise was cancelled here in Australia, here in New South Wales, I think, or it could have been Queensland. Anyway, where there's fire. Um, Paradise in the title of this event had to be cancelled because of fire, because of the fire.
mm.
Yeah. I just had to bring that up while I remembered it.
Will Smith. That's who I was talking about in that movie I, Robot. Will Smith. He was in that one.
Yeah.
Where they were telling you again. It's just you got to every movie they are shouting
Sorry.
what their agenda is.
The other thing just came back to me. Sorry.
But
This bushfire smoke combined with aluminium is really getting to my brain. Desert. I'm sorry. Uh, it's right there. The song that came back to me a couple of days ago. We don't need no education. I'm not going to sing it. Um, I
I
will.
wouldn't want to hear that.
Yeah, we don't need no education. Teacher, leave those kids alone. Yeah, thanks, Desert. Um, Another line in the song. You were talking about the pyramid and the bricks. Um,
Yeah.
is it? I'm not sure of the words at the start. Is it all in all, we're just another brick in the wall? We're just another brick in the wall.
Well,
That's
right. That's the way
yeah,
to put it. Sure, we're all used and
yeah,
chewed and spit out.
yeah, yeah. So they're telling us in everything. It's in everything. You cannot you cannot watch a movie, listen to a song, walk down the street, amongst the shops. You can't go anywhere without seeing the symbolism, without seeing them communicating in front of us, hidden in plain sight. That because that's what this world is. Signs and symbols rule the world. But in saying that,
Mhm.
over the past year and a half since joining your live streams, Desert, I'm seeing the other side of it. I'm seeing the communication with the signs and symbols of this world, but it's the communication from Yeshua, from the light, as well. And I want to thank you for that. I just want to thank you for that, Desert, for everything. If we don't do any more live streams after this one, I just want you to know that you helped me find the light. So you helped me find uh,
Mhm.
a relationship with Yeshua, and that's why I'm
Wonderful.
still here, still talking
Hmm.
on this channel today. Um,
Outstanding. Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
great. It's been a pleasure. I have an obligation to speak with what Yeshua has given me. If I don't, I'm dead. So that's what we have to do. I'll give off a few more words here real quick.
Yay! Yay!
And I hope Jackie, I helped you a little bit with your question. I do. I ad lib on a lot of this stuff,
Love it.
and Jet says I can't walk down the streets without seeing all the eye symbols.
Yeah.
Sure, Target, yeah,
Yeah.
even has the shingle, but that's the bullseye. Target is the bull. The bull is ball. The ball's eye, and so okay, so like one is flower. Some of these I've mentioned before, but I'm just like doing a review on a few that are
Okay.
pretty interesting. So flower, as you know, means the flow of war. So flower is not the original word, and it is the bud the vat the vate because the word body is the word flower, and because you can hear in the word bud eye, and that's the bud's eye is a flower that has to be opened, and then and so it's the vat, but we know it's not a b and it's not a d, it's a body. So I'll spell it in the chat then. How about that, so we can see it while I'm talking about it to get a better picture. Body, because we are a flower that can open up, is the metaphor. And so the vat uh, ay, the vat and I'll just take out that apostrophe. I don't need that ay, and then it literally means. Okay, there it is. The serpent's eye. You see, the body is the vate, and it is the serpent's eye. Vat is serpent. Ay is the eye, the original word for the eye, the vate. And so you can imagine, all the flowers, right? They represent eyes. They are the serpent eye, and because everything is a serpent, as we talk about in the broadcast, everything is spinning. And yeah, Walmart has the flower, and it's also the underground, a picture of the underground machine that digs tunnels underground as well. So maybe that's their high sign that's got a portal, to the underground in each of these WalMarts. It's a military operation, and these people are as wicked as all get out that are having a party on everybody else. They think they're going to their underground party, but the party's over for everybody. You want to be down there with a bunch of people who sold out the rest of mankind in the
No thanks.
darkness, who drink blood and rape children. Yeah, give me a
I'd rather
break.
fry on the
Uh,
surface. Thank you.
yeah. So we heard the word sometimes seraphim, and the seraphim, if we see it in the word, Sarah is Eshara, and then fame is fame, but fame is flame, and so Seraphim literally means the royal eyes flame. That's the seraphim, And we hear these words, but we never know how they are interpreted or used. And that's part of the brainwashing and control, because we're told this is what a word means, boom, take it or leave it, but you're not going to know why it means that or how it means that, or maybe it's not a legitimate word at all. Maybe it's the biggest scam on earth, like the word Jesus, which we all come into the world knowing, being told our Savior's name is Jesus when it's really not. It's really Yeshua, and even that is not the most primitive. I'm just giving it to the middle ground, because if I went the original, the most primitive is Yal Shulam Va. Yal Shulam Va, by the way, it means, just like I said, flower means the serpent's eye. Yal Shulam Va means the knowledge of the serpent that goes round. But Jesus, in comparison to those type of words, literally means you pig snout. Just like we found out that Susan, who's running the tube, Susan means the pig harvest, right? So they're harvesting us on their little game. We know that it's not about you. They took the you out of the tube, right? And so what is going on? They're treating us like we are slime, right? They're treating us, the best people, the truth seekers, the best presenters on the YouTube have been given the knife, right? They've been given the knife. Well, if you can entertain, sing a song, act stupid, then they'll promote you to the high heavens, right? To use a cliche. So another word, two terminologies, give you an example of the way it was back then. That we deal with the word the Christians or Christian, and also the church, but the original word for Christian was the people of the way. The way goes back into Levi. Levi is a corruption. It's Leve, and Leve means the way. And so they were being foretold in the Old Covenant time about the way. And the way was that you are not a part of this world. You have no possessions. Remember, the priesthood didn't even own land, from that standpoint, that everything was provided for them through the rest of the tribe, right? And so that's the way it is in the mystery in this world, because the Father in the mystery will provide for you what you need at the time you need it. Everything is yours and nothing is yours. You see, it's a mystery. So the word Christian originally was the people of the way, and this is what they took out of our scriptures. We don't quite see it, but you do if you read Farrar Fenton. Farrar Fenton has done a great job of capturing that original thought. And so unlike the word Christian, the people of the way, then the church, because church is Kirk, as we see in Star Trek, we find the word Kirk. He's on the round deck, right? Kirk, James T. Kirk, James for the seat of light, the T for the cross, the royal T, and the Kirk for the circle. The Kirk is circuit, goes round. Kirk is circuit, and church is the same word. Kirk is church. It's just a play on letters, and church therefore would be originally the perfect circle of the called out ones. Okay, the perfect circle of the called out ones. And talking about perfect, because I know people hate that word because they don't think anybody can be perfect. I just saw on the news yesterday a 14-year-old out of Eastern Europe, and she's writing complete symphonies at age 14. And you tell me that perfection doesn't exist? An artist can't paint a perfect picture. A musician can't play a perfect song. And we're told by the great Father of light, be you therefore perfect, because your great Father is perfect. And then you're going to say you claim the scriptures and say nobody's perfect.
Wow.
Yeshua wasn't then Yeshua wasn't perfect, right? He came down in the flesh, and a man in the flesh couldn't be perfect, right? That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
And so they teach the opposite of what the ultimate end of creation was supposed to be, to create a perfect man, one who is uncorruptible. They say incorruptible, but it's uncorruptible or non-corruptible, because we came out of corruption. And out of the corruption, then we go into incorruption. Out of imperfection, we go into perfection. And so what is the light? What is the symbol of light? It is perfection. And so people want to claim to be of the light, but they say, but it's not perfect. that the work of the Mother Father, the Great Spirit of Life, is not perfect either. Then, right? Because His work is of the light. You see it? You see the circular argument that is there that doesn't make sense,
Yep.
Ninja.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yep. I see it, and I'm trying
You
to
know.
look
Yeah.
for the logo uh,
Mhm.
graphic,
You,
and I
you,
just
you,
put up the wrong one.
all
So
right. You
bear with
can't.
me.
You can't.
I'm
You
seeing
can't.
it.
You
I'm seeing
cannot.
it.
You cannot have it both ways. You see, it's there are two worlds. There's the two gardens. There's the higher garden, which is the garden of light. That's the atom that was falsely called Eden. That is the sun, the Zan, the infinite, the center of infinity, the source of all creation in our solar system. And then you have the lower garden, which is on the earth, a type, a matrix that represents a higher order. Okay, and so the word dove is interesting because there's another corruption of a word, because the D is death, the D is darkness, the D is doom, and so DOVE is TAV, and then that means, what does that mean? Uh, ROYAL star, STA. Did I spell that wrong? STAR. Okay, a royal star. So you see, so when the dove, it wasn't a dove that came down when Yeshua came up out of the water. It was a focusing light. It was the royal star, a white light that focused upon him when he came up out of the water. And that's how Yalganu knew, because not only did he hear the voice, this is my only loved seed, not my beloved son, but my only, only loved seed. And he then had light focusing on him as well, with the brightness of a dove. You see? And so, what is Tav? TAV is no different than TAO or TAU, as we see it in the corrupt form, and it means the end of creation. So a dove comes down, and it symbolizes the end product of what we are supposed to be, the Tau, the Tav. Okay, and we also see it in this spelling. Uh, Let me see here. Let me see. DOW. Okay, yeah, and it's a chemical plant, right? It means the end of of a star as well, because out of Dow Chemical, everything they use with petrochemical, usage of the products made out of petrochemicals, or which is the bio resource of a star, right? The petrochemical, the oil reserve of a star, not from dinosaurs. There is no such thing as what do they call it? Fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is another big lie. There is no fossil fuel. It's the star, is energy of a star reserved, that cooled and congealed in the planet, and so it's the end product, the Tao, the Tau, the Tav. You see, and so, but literally, a V in the primary sense represents a star. Okay, this is how you read these symbols. This is why these symbols are so important. This
Yeah.
is why
Yeah.
they moved away from these symbols in the Greek, why they moved away from these symbols in the Eastern Aramaic, why they moved away from these symbols with the Hebrew, why they moved away from these symbols. Because they tell the story.
Yeah.
This is the highest form of graphic communication on the planet, and nobody gets it but the few who come in. They're getting it.
Yeah.
I've got people that know me from the past, and I wasn't ready yet on my journey 10 years ago, and so I guess you get little respect from your friends, like Yeshua said. You're not welcome. A star navigator is not recognized in his own backyard, and but anyway, the point is that you need to know the meaning of symbol, because it will set you free in order to read, because we have to read. It's about reading. That's what's going on. And so a quote. I'm looking for a quote right now, but what we're talking about in this mystery of this dichotomy is called climatica, and I'll show you how an original thought is played out. Okay, and I'll spell it in the margin here because we talk Kymatica, but I'm going to show you an example of original thought. Um, okay, so Chimatica, and so that word would be spelled like this: Chaymahaka. You see how the original thought works. You can see it's a primitive. It is primitive, but you can get the picture that our words today are not the originals, but yet they are a reflection onto those originals, right?
Desert.
Although the C the C would be a K. I put the C at the beginning
Yeah.
just to maintain a little bit of semblance, but
Yeah.
it's really a K. There is no C. C is a corrupted code. What?
um,
I'm
I
all
see.
head freaks.
I
Go
see.
ahead.
I see. Chimera. Chimera.
Right, chimera is in there, sure. And
That was
because
all.
backwards
Yeah.
it's Aramaic, right? Aramaic.
Wow.
Yeah. And so here's a quote that I pulled this together by three different sources, and because it all fit the idea fit. This is the real problem. This is like the bottom line of the problem. They have made with the so-called Christianity, as well as just, you know, any like even in Freemasonry, then we could say as well. But right, they have made lies for a refuge, and in falsehood they have taken shelter, abandoning themselves to an uninquiring mind. You see, they don't want to know, Ninja. They don't want to know. They've abandoned themselves to an uninquiring mind. They have made lies for their refuge, and in falsehood they have taken shelter.
Wow. That is so
Like,
true.
yeah, like hugging their pillow. Okay, don't I don't or I tried to hand a book to a friend one day. I told him that this book on from on India, the one world on the one, what was that called, the um um I just always have trouble remembering that book, but it
I
is
should write things
uh,
down when you tell me as well, so that I can
well,
remind you during live streams.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much, but it is the one world Vedic culture, the one world Vedic culture, and I said this is how they built the first world order civilization, the one world civilization. Tried to hand him the book and he wouldn't touch it. He wouldn't touch it. Like he practically put his hands behind his back to make sure he wouldn't touch it because he's of the narrow-minded Christians that the earth was only made in 6 24-hour periods, and nothing has evolved in any way, shape, or form on the planet, and that everything was presto magico. In other words, the Great Spirit was in a hurry, I guess, because he had to go to lunch or something, and so therefore he had to do it real quick. And he can't. So you have to close your eyes real tight. Real tight to not see anything, because don't show me anything. I don't want to know anything. Because then it's easier, right? It's easy.
Yeah.
It's less work. But
Like when
yet,
a
but it
like when a
says,
child shuts their eyes and puts their hands over their ears and starts repeating um, anything over and over and over again, like I can't hear you, I can't hear you, like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
right. Well,
yeah. Sorry, I
right.
just had
So the
that in my
problem
head.
is that
Yeah,
people are not deep thinkers, and so because they're not deep thinkers, they think they get a ticket that gives them a free ride, and they don't have to work. But yet it says faith is a work by itself. And then you got Christians that are saying, well, you can't do works because if you do works, it ruins the free gift or something like that. And then, okay, but yet faith is a work. So I guess you can't have faith either, because then that'd be illegitimate too. You know, I mean, they come up with every crazy idea, that's been propagated by Jesuits and Masons, and just yum
yeah,
yum eat it up.
yeah.
Give me that dogma. Oh, I love that. It's
Lie
a
upon
cliche.
lie
Good.
upon lie, onion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So that's our dilemma, Ninja. We're in a fix in our world, and people don't even know how to begin to look for the answers, because They don't, unless they can get it off of YouTube or they can get it off of television or from a movie, then they don't they don't read books anymore. They can't read.
They
They can't
can't
interpret a
think.
word.
They can't think for
Yeah,
themselves. Their
they're on
smartphones do it for
fluoride.
them. Yeah.
They're drinking fluoride, out of the tap, and they're eating bad food, and they're and breathing bad air now, and the electromagnetic magnetic waves, the frequencies, over there, Jet 888, she goes around exposing 5G. That they're frying us. They're killing us. They're doing it slow. They're having a little fun. They ought to just get the machine guns and do it right, but no, they're gonna have fun doing it a dozen different ways while they try to keep the party alive. Well, they worked a long time to build this matrix, and so they're not just ready to pull the plug yet. But 2020 is here, ladies and gentlemen. 2020, and that's what you're going to see in this perfect vision. Okay, so Ninja, we may do one more, maybe New Year's Eve. Maybe we'll do one, or New Year's Day. Okay, and
Can I ask? It's okay if for you to say no. Um, but I'd like to do something on, even though we know the real meaning, I'd like to do something on Christmas Day, even if it's just a little short one,
okay,
possibly,
okay. What
because I know a
on
lot
the
of
feed on?
people will be alone out there, like me, for example. And
Okay.
yeah, it's not the Christmas thing for me. It's oh, here we go. I'll just bring this up quickly and then we'll move on. It's the anniversary of my dad's passing
Oh,
as
okay.
well. So
Yeah,
I'd like
I
to
see.
not
Sure.
be alone.
Okay. And that's on what? Today's the 17th.
Yeah.
So we're talking
So
about a week from today.
yeah, about a week. I'm not
All
sure
right.
what day Christmas Day is, but
All
yeah,
right.
about a
Clue me
week.
in. Just clue me in, and we'll even though Christmas is irrelevant to
Exactly.
when our Redeemer was born. It's actually the feast of Saturnalia. More people were
Yeah.
sacrificed on the Saturnalia than any other time of the year.
Yeah. See, we
So
can
it's
talk
it's
about all of that as well. See?
sure
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah.
And Jet says she'll bring Kleenex.
Oh, thank you. I'll
Okay.
stock up too. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've done enough Bhagi Gandhi Wandi Rashish Hashish damage for one day. And the Hindus are. Oh, I even saw a news report just a few days ago. Even how we talked about the Hindu with the turban was pulling the plug on the power in California. Right here,
Yeah.
we of all people, what symbolism, right? That the Hindu is going to pull the plug. Even they showed the Attorney General in my old state of New Jersey, and there you got a guy with a turban on. Even the Attorney General in New Jersey's a Hindu. It's absolutely amazing, this psychopathic world we have where they switch it out. Oh, it's a Christian nation and blah blah blah. While they kill all the Native Americans, right? They kill all the natives. That's Christian, right? And when we know it's really the occult Masonic Vatican order disorder that is really doing it all. But it's just amazing. The switch outs that occur. Now. You know. It, I don't want to. I can really get on an egg roll here, Ninja. So I
I
think I'll
love it
just
when you get on an egg
give it.
roll. Does it?
Yeah. Well, I have to have sweet and sour sauce to go with it, and I don't have any right now. Uh, I don't have a voice, so I'm gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
I'm grateful for everybody stopping by, and hope that if we don't talk again with some of our friends, that they have the best possible New Year's to learn the truth and to see and read things for themselves. Otherwise, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna be a good year. Pretty, and they better start stocking up on water, on food, and on lead because they're gonna need it. Okay, and some nutritionals if they can. All right. So Ninja Cat, just thank you for being there and allowing us to do a broadcast over the last year or so, and you're calling in for the last a year and a half since we first connected. It's been a short journey, but it's been great doing it with you. Okay, and so we'll talk on the other side, and then just and be well. Okay, we'll look towards Sunday. Give me a heads up when we're getting close. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
You know, it's what they didn't want you to know, right?
Yeah, we tell it right here, does it?
We've been
It
telling it, uh,
we have
but
we have been.
but we were censored. We were censored, so that's why nobody's here. So we'll see y'all, and thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.
Okay. Thank you guys. I'm not going to ramble on either, because I don't want to get emotional on air. Not that that hasn't happened before. Um, but yeah, we will try and get another broadcast in the next week or so. Um, if that happens, that will be amazing. Thank you guys for uh, joining us in this journey. Um, and please come back. Please, even if you have to unsubscribe and resubscribe to get your notifications, yeah, do it. um, yeah, so that you don't miss out on any live streams that we might manage to do. At the moment, I'm in the middle of packing. I've already gotten rid of half of my belongings, and I'm trying to get rid of more. I have a deadline to be out of uh, Mum's house. Yeah, so there's a lot to do here, and they're burning us. Let's not forget that. Anyway, so I'm so grateful to Desert and all of you. Um, yeah, I love how we come together on these live streams, and this one was amazing. Thank you, Desert, for getting through it. I know it was an effort with your throat, so thank you. And creating light for you always, creating light for all of you. Let there be or rain. So with that, see you guys later. Be safe out there. Um, and hopefully we'll do this again in about a week. Okay. Much love. See yous.